So guys, this is the album that we're going to create today. I'm going to do just a quick peek through so you can see what we're going to end up with. I'm just going to tell you, we're basically focused on building the album base, and then you can decorate it with whatever paper you want. Of course, I used the Carta Bella Hocus Pocus for this one. But anyways, this is a quick peek through of what we're going to end up with by the end of this tutorial. Really quick. So this folds out into 4 separate panels. So we'll build each of these pages. So here's our little middle section. Got a lovely little waterfall here. These flip open, same on both sides. Okay. And we've got our next page 3, we'll call it, with a waterfall pocket. And then finally over here at the end where we flip open and have another place for more photos. So anyway, this is quick to put together pretty much, hopefully pretty straightforward. And I hope you enjoy the tutorial. Thanks guys. Hey everyone, really excited to get started on this project. So before we get right into it, I'm going to show you the materials that we're using. So as I mentioned, I'm using this Hocus Pocus paper. This is 2022 Halloween line from Carta Bella, and this is designed by Stephen Duncan. I really love the little cat. There's some really cute images. So this will be the kit we're using. I'm using this 12 by 12 kit, and I'm just going to go through really quickly the sheets. So we'll be making use of these 3x4 cards, different little cutouts here that we can use. We'll make waterfall with the 4x6, lots of stickers for embellishments, and then just a quick kind of run through of the different papers. Obviously very Halloweeny, very cute, lots of orange and black with a little bit of purple, and that's about it for the paper we're decorating with. The other things you're going to need is 110-pound cardstock, which I use for the base of the album. For the waterfalls inside, because I'm using Carta Bella paper and it's quite heavy, I'm going to stick to a lighter 80-pound, or maybe this is 65, but it's a lighter weight cardstock that I'll use for the waterfall pieces instead. Otherwise, the album gets a bit bulky. And then your standard equipment, so your paper cutter, your glue. I tend to use art glitter liquid glue, which I put into these cute little bottles, but it works really well. Your favorite liquid glue is great. We're also going to be using double-sided tape for this project. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so let's get started. Just a few words about how I do my tutorials. So first of all, I'm always going to read out your measurements as width by height. Okay, so I'm going to read out the measurement across first and then down, and that's important when we do our scoring and everything else. Okay, so that's number one. The second thing is, the way that I do this is I build as I go. So we're not going to cut all the pieces first and set them aside. We're going to just cut and glue everything together and build the album as we go, so we just don't have a whole pile of things to sort through of cut pieces that we have to label, etc. So we're not going to do any of that. We're going to build as we go. So at any point while you're doing the tutorial, you can pause the video, and when you come back, you know, it will just continue where we left off. So let's start with the front cover, which is the left piece. And the first thing you're going to do is measure a piece that's 8 3/4 by 8 1/4. And the reason why, even though this is basically a 6 by 8 album, the 8 3/4 width is really to accommodate the 8 3/4 width is to accommodate the spine and the binding, where we're going to attach the binding. So I'm going to get a fresh piece of cardstock here, and I'm going to measure this out here at 8 3/4. By 8 1/4. Okay, there we go. So this is going to be the left side of our album, and I want you to score this now in a couple of places. And so I just got this new cutter from Stampin' Up. I'm super excited because it has a scoring blade right on it, so I don't have to keep switching over to my scoring my scoring table or whatever it's called. So what I want you to do is just line up the long side along the edge of your scoreboard, that was the word I just couldn't remember. Okay, so your 8 3/4 side is along the edge of your scoreboard, and you're going to score this sheet at 1/2 inch. Okay, and so I'm using my cutter, which has a scoring blade already on it. So that's it, scored at 1/2 inch, and then you're going to slide it over and score at 2.5. Sorry, I just had to flip this around because I wasn't getting a good edge. So I'm going to score now at 2.5 because I want a 2-inch spine on this. Okay, so there we go. So what you should have then is a 1/2 inch piece here, which is what we're going to use to attach the cover, and then 2 inches between these two score marks. And now this piece should be 6 1/4 between the edge and the score mark. Okay, so just make sure that that's how that worked out. And then just grab your scoring tool, okay, and just fold those over and burnish the edge. There we go. Okay, and so that is going to become our front cover, but we're going to work a little bit here on the inside for now. So this is going to have a couple of pieces. So it's going to have a pocket at the bottom and a flap coming down from the top. So let's go ahead and construct the pocket. The pocket is going to measure 7 1/4 wide by 3.5 tall. So let me grab some paper here. So 7 1/4 by 3.5. This is a short pocket, and we're going to use it to put cards in. Okay, so now I need you to score this on 3 sides, and you're going to score this at 1/2 inch around 3 sides. Okay, so put this back into my handy dandy little tool, and I'm scoring at 1/2 on the short side, then turning it, scoring again 1/2 along the long side, and now flip it and score it at 1/2 along the other short side. Okay, so there is our pocket, and we can just fold that in with your scoring tool. All right, so that's done. All right, and next we're going to make the flap that will sit from the top of the page, and that flap is going to measure 6 1/4 by 5.5. Okay, so let's measure out 6 1/4. Here we go. By 5.5. All right. Okay, so we have a piece that's 6 1/4 by 5.5. I put the 5.5 edge along the edge of your scoreboard like this, and you're going to score at 1/2 inch along the 6 1/4 inch side. Okay, so you're scoring the long side at 1/2 inch because this is where we will attach our flap to the top of the page. Okay, so far what we've done is the left cover with this flap that will go here, and the pocket will go in the bottom. And what's going to happen with this piece is we'll stick on the pocket, and the way we'll keep the flap closed is by actually inserting little photo mats and cards inside here. So that's what we're doing. So let's go ahead actually and glue these all on. So I'm going to move this aside for a second. And I'm using 1/4 inch score tape for this. Some people use score tape and glue together. I don't. I never have. None of my albums have fallen apart over the years, and so I just use the one product. There's differing opinions out there. At one point, I had read that people are like putting the glue on because then it gives you some wiggle room, because as you know, the score tape, once you get it down, you can't, it's, you know, it makes a mess to remove. So that's one reason people are doing it. Second reason people are giving was that it makes it stronger. Jury's out for me on that one. I haven't seen it yet, so I just use the score tape because that's what's been working for me. But if you want to add on some glue, go ahead. So I just put some score tape along the outside edge of the fold, and we're going to glue this down to the top edge of this page. So the way that I do this is I usually just peel off a corner, because this really reduces your risk of sticking it down incorrectly all at once. So I just line up everything up, make sure it looks good, right? So I want to make sure I'm lined up against the score line here, but not covering it because it won't fold properly. And I want to make sure I'm lined up at the top in the corner. Then I'm just going to hold that down when I'm happy with all the lining up and gently pull this out while kind of pressing down. And that eliminates kind of that risk of what we were just talking about. Okay, so next we're going to lay down the pocket. So first thing what I want you to do though is cut diagonally across this corner at the bottom. So just to eliminate some extra bulk when we're sticking it down. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. We'll do that on the other side as well. Get these out of the way. And now I'm going to stick my score tape down on these 3 pieces. So here's one. So for those of you who don't know, I am in Canada and it is Thanksgiving here this weekend, and it's all of a sudden the temperatures dropped. So we had really nice balmy weather until yesterday, and today it's like fall has decided to show its face. So it just reminded me it's a good day for staying inside and crafting. Now for the pocket, I can't really use that technique. Well, I guess I could, I showed you, but anyway, what I do for the pocket is I just pull all the corners off and then line it up across the bottom, and it's pretty, pockets are pretty straightforward to attach, but same thing, line it up across the bottom and then just stick that down. Perfect. So when we get to decorating, we'll make cards that will sit in here, and that's what will hold this top flap closed. But I just like to go over everything with the scoring tool here, just to make sure the glue's down nicely and the edges are nice and crisp, and that's it. And then I also will fold over the edge just to make sure that that has a good little sort of flap, because this is to stay kind of like so. Okay, so that's it. We've already done page 1 front left cover. So let's just set that up here for a second and work on page 2, to which we will attach that page we just finished. So page 2 is probably the more complicated page. It's got a lot going on, but we're just going to do one step at a time. So let me make sure I'm up here in the frame. There we go. Okay. Let me get a fresh piece of cardstock. So first thing we're going to do is make sort of the centerpiece. If you recall, the middle second page has flaps on both sides that open up and waterfalls in the center, so it has a lot going on. So we're going to kind of build out from the centerpiece. So what you're going to do is just cut a piece of paper at 6 1/4 by 8 1/4. So 6 1/4. Here by 8 1/4, and save all your cutoffs because we're going to need them when we do when we start making the mats. I mean, you can throw this out obviously. Okay, so that's the back sort of base of the album. Now I'm going to create the flaps that come out of the left and right side. Okay, and I'm just going to show you something. I didn't create a binding or a spine on this because it's going to be attached here when we're done. Okay, so this doesn't need to have any spine or binding. The subsequent piece will. Okay, so let's go ahead now and cut the left and right pieces. So you're going to cut 2 pieces that measure 8 1/4 by 5. Okay, so you should have an offcut that's already 8 1/4, roughly, or 8 1/2, and you can cut it down to 8 1/4. And then cut it. Oh, goodness. Okay. These are too small. So, sorry, I need a fresh piece. So 8 1/4. You're going to cut this at 5 by 8 1/4 because I want to make sure I'm giving you, again, we're going width by height. So 5 inches. We're going to cut 2 of these. So let me cut 10. Cut it at 10. And I'm just going to cut off a 1/4 inch here because this is 8 1/2. Sorry, I'm probably getting all confusing. Anyways, just cut 2 pieces at 5 by 8 1/4. Okay, so that's my 8 1/4 now. I'm going to cut this in half. This is 8 1/4. I'm going to cut this at 5, and I should have 2 pieces of the perfect size that I'm looking for. Okay, there we go. All right, so you have 2 pieces here that measure 5 by 8 1/4. And what we're going to do is score down the long side. So, but your short side up against the scoring, your scoring table or whatever. And you're going to score this at 1/2 inch. Okay. 1/2 inch. And then score it again at 1 inch. Okay. So I have 2 score marks. One is at 1/2 inch, one is at 1 inch. I'll do the same thing with the other side. Half. Slide it over. If you're using a scoring board, obviously you don't have to slide it over. So for example, here's my scoring board. So I would just line this up and score at 1/2 and then at 1. Okay, just want to show you that in case this is getting confusing with this tool. Okay, so this now consists of our left and right flaps, and they have a little 1/2 inch spine, which is great. So we're just going to fold these up. Okay, sorry I'm off screen, I'm just folding on the score lines. Okay, and let's just set this aside for a second. Now the other thing that was going on with these was that on the inside of these flaps, they opened and shut. So we're going to do the left and right sides. So let's work on the 2 top flaps for each side. So you're going to cut 2 pieces that measure 4 by 6 1/2. So now these should work. So I'm going to cut this down to 4 inches by 6 1/2. Okay, that's 1. Get the other one. Down to 4 by 6 1/2. Okay, there's my 2 top flaps. And now I want to score these at 1/2 inch. So get them onto your scoreboard and score them down at 1/2 inch. Score them, don't cut them. So I'm going to have to recut that one. That's the danger of this kind of tool, guys. That was funny. Yes, so let me just cut another 4 by 6 1/2 piece. Just bear with me 1 second. So sorry about that. I knew I was going to do that at some point. Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to move my cutting blade out of the way, bring in my scoring blade, and score, as I was saying, score this at 1/2. And the other one, same thing, score it at 1/2. Okay, I'll just fold those. We'll burnish them later. I just want to get them out of the way. Okay, now we're going to cut out the bottom flaps for the left and right side, and those are going to measure 4 by 3.5. So you're going to cut 2 of those. Okay, 2 of those at 4 by 3.5. And 3.5. Okay, now what I want you to do is take these pieces and score them at 1/2 inch. One and 2. Okay, let's move our scoreboard or cutting blade out of the way and bring back our other pieces. Oops. So you should have the middle centerpiece. You should have your left flap, your right flap, the top flips, and now the bottom flips. So you can see I've already started to work on the left-hand side. So let's do the right-hand side together, okay? So first thing is, let's just burnish down all of our scored edges, just so that stays nice and bendy and foldy. Okay, we'll do this on all 3 of the pieces here. And then we're going to just very simply, we're going to put score tape on the inside here. So we're going to attach this to the center back. Okay. So just fold that down. Okay. Then get your centerpiece, line it up against the score line without covering the score line. I keep mentioning that, but that's because it's pretty critical that you don't cover the score line. And just slide that off. And, oop, see, I did this a bit crooked. So I'm gonna show you guys real time how I fix it, because I was in a bit of a hurry. So I'm gonna just slide this under between the 2 pieces of cardstock and see if I can kind of wiggle it around and nudge it out without damaging the paper. Sometimes you can, oh, see, I just pulled out some of the tape, and you can lift it very carefully and just sort of realign it. And then sometimes it's just not, you need to take the whole thing off. So in this case, I think we're good. I'm gonna just nudge it over. I'm gonna have to put some more score tape down there. Okay, so I'm putting in some more score tape just to fix this. I'm not too worried because I'm gonna cover up the back with a whole bunch of the patterned paper, and same with the front. But I just thought, rather than delete this part of the video, I can show you how I would go about fixing it. And now, because I kind of lifted some of the paper apart, I'm putting a little bit of glue to keep that together. Okay, so easy. It's just paper. Easy to fix. Okay, so I just want to fold those down again to make sure it's well burnished. Okay, so that's my left side. Very nice. And now I'm going to put in my top flap. So we're going to put this on the outside of this score line, like that. Okay, let me move that out of the way. And I'm just going to pull off the corner. Again, line this up across the top. Don't cover your score line. Make sure you can still see it. Make sure everything's nicely lined up. Pull that out. There we go. And the bottom flap, same thing. I'm going to just put my score tape on the outside of the flap here, like that. Okay. Now just pull back a corner. And I'm just lining this up across the bottom, making sure I can still see my score line over here. Okay. and gluing that down. Okay, so that's perfect. There's my bottom and top flap. And we're not going to worry about the closure for this yet, but the way this is going to work is I'm going to be using a little embellishment or something here, and this is going to tuck underneath it like that. So that's how it'll stay closed. But we are not going to do that yet because we can't do that until after we put our patterned paper on here. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing on the right side. So on the right side, I've already started to put this together. So I have the top flap on. I've already put my score tape down on the side, so I'm going to fold that back. Let's see if I can do this one right. So I'll line that up. Yep, looks good. There we go. Just line this up. Perfect. And now my last little piece for the bottom. And then we can work on the center, which is where we have the waterfalls. So let's just attach this piece. There we go. Okay, so that's great. That's the center of the album. And more to come on that, but this is how it's going to attach here. So we don't have to worry about it just yet. And just set this to the side. So now we can work on the centerpiece. Okay, so now we're going to cut the waterfall pieces that are for the 3x4 cards. So we're going to cut a few of these, but I'm just going to walk through one with you right now, and then we'll talk about how many to cut. So for now, these are going to measure 3 3/4 across by 4 1/4 inches high. Okay, so let's measure that out at, I wonder if this card, yes, 3 3/4. Oh, this one is already 3 3/4 by 4 1/4. Okay, and then what I want you to do is score this at 1/2 inch. So put your 3 3/4 inch side along the edge of your scoreboard and score the 4 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch. Okay, so you're going to end up with this. And you can just fold it over, burnish it down, and put some score tape on that. Okay, like so. Okay, so I'm still continuing to cut, but what I want you to do is go ahead and make 6 of these, okay? So 6 of these exactly the same way. Add the score tape to the corner, etc., to the side rather, the way we showed you here, and go ahead and make 6 of those. So pause the video and we'll install them as soon as you're back and ready. Okay, so we're back and you should have cut 6 of the waterfall folders. But before we install these, I want to show you how to make the closure flap, because I want to kind of put a flap over them to keep them closed while the album's shut, and that kind of keeps them tidy. So I'll give you kind of an idea of what that's going to look like. So let's just pretend these are all down here. I'm going to have a flap that's coming across the center of the page to hold everything down, and it'll open up. So let's do that now. So let's just set this aside for a second. Okay, and grab your cutting board and let's begin. So what I want you to do is grab a piece of cardstock, and I'm going to make this, I think I'm going to do this about 2 inches thick. So we're going to make it 2 inches wide. Okay. And then I'm going to need 2 pieces for left and right. So what we're going to do is cut 2 pieces, and I'll need them to overlap. So they're going to be a little bit longer than 6 inches together. Anyway, you'll see what I mean in a second. So you're going to cut your 2-inch strip into 2 pieces you're going to cut 2 4-inch pieces. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. There we go. And another 4. Okay. All right, perfect. Now we need to just score these on the side so they can hold the flap down. And there's a couple of things. So we're going to score these at 1/2 inch, which is where we're going to attach them. And then I'm going to score again. I'm going to move over 1/8 inch and score again because I want them to be slightly lifted so that they can cover, it's not sort of too tight over the waterfall, if you know what I mean. Okay, so let's score these pieces along the short edge. So put your long edge along the bottom or top of your scoreboard and score this at 1/2 inch. Okay, and then move it over literally like 1/8 inch and score it again. Okay, so you should have a 1/2 inch score and then 1/8 inch score, and then do that on the other piece as well. There's my half. Just gonna push that over. And so that gives us that little bit of room, okay? So important, you have to do these first before you put in the waterfall. So let's go ahead and put these in. So I'm bringing back my base page here. And I'm gonna put these about in the middle. You can just eyeball it. So I'm just gonna fold along the score lines first off. I was just making sure that they're going to work, and they will work very nicely. Okay, so just score along your 2 lines that you have kind of this little edge here. Same with the other card. Okay, and now I'm just going to get my score tape on here and put these into the album. And then we'll put in the waterfall pages. Okay, just peel off the backing, and I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to position these about in the center, but I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm not going to go too crazy. Okay, so looks like about here. There we go. And then just to make sure that they line up across from each other, I'm just sort of overlapping so I can see where to put it. And this one will go right there. Perfect. And we're going to use the same technique that I'm going to show you over here to keep this closed, but we're not going to do that until we get to the decorating part. Okay, now let's go ahead and put in our waterfalls. So where you're going to position the waterfalls is you're going to start with the first one up. Not all the way to the top. You're going to be about 1/4 inch from the top edge, I think. Let me just double check that. And they're going to go in this kind of waterfall, sideways waterfall. It's like an angled waterfall. So it's a bit of a different look, but it's pretty. And it gets you kind of a view of 2 corners instead of just the one where you do like a stacked waterfall. So this is sort of more or less how it's going to look, so you get an idea of what we're about to do. Okay, so it's about there. So I'm going to say we're going to start putting them in about 1/2 inch from the top edge, and same about 1/2 inch from the left edge of the page. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Because these are kind of in a weird, like, we're not lining them up against the edges, so sometimes what I like to do is just grab a pencil and make sure that I'm going in straight, because once these go in crooked, they will all go in crooked and you're not going to be happy about the whole thing. So I'm just going to do a straight pencil edge just to make sure that I'm putting these in exactly straight. So I'm making sure that they're the same distance. So I want to go 1/2 inch from this edge, which is here. And then again, let me measure about 1/2 inch from the edge down here, just about there. Okay, and now I can see where to place my card. Okay, you only really need to do that with the first one, then the other ones will just line up against this first one. So let's peel our backing off just in the corner. Okay, line everything up along the top edge pencil mark that you put in, And down the side as well. Just hold on to that. Okay, so once you have these flaps in, we're going to want to put in the waterfall, but I want to put some patterned paper on the back of this page before I put in the waterfall. So that, we'll just go ahead and do that. This is the kind of only early decorating that we're going to do, and I'm just going to choose a piece of paper that I know I don't intend to use specifically anywhere else. So go ahead and choose some paper that you'd like as the background, because it's not going to be all covered up. So I really do want to use one of the patterned papers from the kit and make it look really pretty. So I think I'm going to go with these little pumpkin guys here. And they provide a nice contrast to the black. So remember that this page was 6 1/4 by 8 1/4. So if you like a 1/8 of an inch trim all the way around, you can just simply cut your cardstock down to 6 by 8. Okay, so otherwise cut it to your liking with the amount of border that you like to see. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this down into a 6 by 8 piece. Now here's also, if you want to chalk your edges, this is when, reminder to just go ahead and do your chalking on the edges. I am going to chalk my edges, so I have my black soot and, let's see, I've got black soot and hickory smoke, and I think I'm going to go with the black soot and just quickly ink up these edges before I stick it down, because I just like that look that it gives the paper. A bit of a shadow. I think it would be nice to edge this also maybe in some orange. There's orange marmalade or whatever inks you have, but I like the Tim Holtz Distress Oxides. So let's just get that out of the way. Okay, and that's just going to sit right here perfectly on top of the page. So what I usually do is, this is where I might use a bit of tape and glue. So sometimes what I'll do is just put tape along the top and bottom edges, and then I use glue for the rest. One thing is, if you're using a really heavy paper, patterned paper like Carta Bella is very heavy, then you definitely can get away with the glue, because if you're using a lighter weight paper, the glue will actually show through, which you do not want. Okay, so let's just get the glue on here. Okay, flip that over and just glue that down, and then we can put in the waterfall next and move on with the rest of the album. There we go. So now with the waterfall, you want to basically go in about a 1/2 inch from the black edge in both sides. So that looks like about right. You can measure it. I just like to eyeball it because, it's fine. It always works out. So I'm just eyeballing this, making sure you're straight on both sides, otherwise everything will be crooked forever after that. And just pull that off, and there's our first tab in our waterfall. Okay, and now you can just go ahead and install the rest of them, and the way that they're going to go is just, you're going to measure about a 1/2 inch down again from the top edge of your last waterfall, so that you get this sort of 1/2 inch border around as you're coming down. It's a little bit less than 1/2 inch anyway, but you get what I mean. So again, we're just going to fold this back, and we'll just do a couple, and then you can put in the rest. You just pause the video and do the rest yourself, and when you come back, we'll move on with the rest of the pieces of the album. So there's number 2, and I'm just making sure I'm straight against this edge. Everything is lined up before I pull out my backing. There's number 2, And let's do one more together. So again, just peel back one little corner. Again, I'm going down about, oh, just shy of 1/2 inch. You can do more. Don't go too far because then you won't, you'll reach the bottom of the paper, obviously, but there's number 3. Okay, so you can see how this is going to look, and then this will sit on top holding everything shut. So I love that. So go ahead and finish those up, and when we come back, we'll continue the rest of the album. Okay, guys, so this is what this should look like. You should have your 6 waterfalls installed, and if you did it right, you'll end up with the last card over to the edge of this side of the paper. Okay, if you wanted them more centered, you could start a little bit, maybe 1/4 inch over, whatever. I like this look, but of course you're free to change it up. Let's put the album together so far. So recall we did the front, so the front left side, and now this is page 2 in the center, and now we have 2 more pages to go. But before we do that, let's glue this, stick this all together. So take your left side and put your score tape along the inside between the edge and your 1/2 inch score line. Okay, and I love this when we start kind of, because we build as we go, you can really start to see the album coming together. So it's super, I think it's fun and exciting. So I'm just folding this flat here so I can kind of see what I'm doing. But I'm going to go right up here to the edge. I'm going to make sure I'm not covering the score line. I can still see the score line a little bit. And now I can go ahead and pull out my tape. Perfect. Okay, I just want to maybe flip it over and do that again. But you can see now the album is starting to come together. So let's go on to page 3. All right, so for page 3, it's going to be attached on this side, and it is another waterfall page, but this is going to be horizontal waterfalls. So let's get started with that. So grab a fresh sheet of paper, and you're going to cut this down to 8.5 by 8 1/4. So it's going to be 8.5 inches wide by 8 1/4 inches tall. So, oh my goodness. Should I fix this off camera? Does this ever happen? Okay, don't get aggressive with your paper cutter, please. All right, so I'm just gonna open this up and let's cut this down. I'm going to, so this is already 8.5 by 11. So I know this is 8.5 as is. So I can cut this down here to 8 1/4. There we go. Okay. So your page is measuring 8 1/4 across by 8.5. Rotate it so that your 8.5 side is along your top or bottom of your scoreboard, whichever way you're doing it, probably the top. Okay, so this is going to be your 8.5 inch side, and I want you to score that now at 1/2 inch and then at 2 1/4. Okay, so because I'm using this paper cutter, I have to do it a little bit differently, but you're going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay, so I'm just lining that up. Make sure you get my blade out of the way. 1/2 inch. And then again, 2 1/4. So just slide along until you reach the 2 1/4 mark. And what this is going to give you, okay, just so you know what we're doing here, is 1/2 inch for you to attach your page to the other side, and then a 1 3/4 inch spine, because if you recall, we've got, this is 2 inches, and I want to have enough space, but I want it to fit inside nicely, so I'm making this spine just slightly bit smaller. Okay, so this is going to not be 2 inches, this is 1 3/4, just so it has some extra room for you to put your photos and whatnot. So I'm just going to fold this down now and burnish it, and we can go ahead and attach page 3. And this is what I mean about just sticking the album together as we go versus cutting all the pages and putting them aside and then putting it together. Like, that is just not my jam. That I find that very confusing. I like to do it this way, and then I don't have to label anything at all, and we're here. So we're going to attach this. So we're going to put double-sided tape down on this strip here, and we're going to attach it to page 2 like so, okay? Now remember, what I've always told you is to make sure you can see the score line. Otherwise your tape is going to be on the score line and this will not attach nicely. Well, it'll attach, but it won't fold up nicely. Okay, so now we're just going to line up the top corner of our page like that. I'm just going to push this down flat for a moment so I can do a proper line up here. Okay, so you can see that. So I'm going to hold that down while I just gently pull out this strip. There we go. Okay, so now we've got page 3 attached, and you can see how this starts to close up really nicely. So on page 3, we've got the waterfalls, and we have 6 of them. So let's just do one together like usual. So grab a fresh piece of your cardstock. Now here, if you recall, I still used the 110 pound when I did this center waterfall, really because I forgot to change it up. And every time I use Carta Bella paper, because it's very heavy, I like to switch to a lighter cardstock for my waterfall. So here I'm going to do just that, and I'm going to switch over to this is just 80 pound regular cardstock. So that's what I'm going to use for my waterfall on this side, which is 6 horizontal 4x6 waterfalls. Okay, so what you're going to do is measure out 6 of these that measure 6 1/4 by 4 3/4. Okay, so this is because I like a little bit of a trim when I put the card down. I want to see a little bit of the black trim. If you don't care about that, you can definitely cut this down to a 6 by 4 3/4. That way you can get a few more cards out of your one piece of cardstock than I will. But I just thought I'd note that I'm going to use one piece of cardstock. I like the trim, so I'm going with the measurement of 6 1/4 across by 4 3/4 tall. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut those out. So I'm going to cut my 4 3/4 first. Okay, so 4 3/4. Okay, by 6 and, sorry, what did I say? 6 1/4, yes. Okay, and then these are going to attach along this side, so I need to just score this edge at 1/2 inch. Okay, so you want your short side along your scoreboard and just score this along the long side at 1/2 inch. There we go. Okay, so you're going to need to make 6 of these. So I'm going to stop here, and you can pause the video and go ahead and make 6 of these, and then add your score tape right across the strip on the outside after you folded it. And when we come back, we'll put them in the album. Okay, so here we've got 6 of these all ready to go with the tape on them, and make sure you burnish the edge there that you scored down. So let's bring back our album and open up to the 3rd page. So these are going to sit right across here. Okay, now these do go edge to edge, as you can see. So they're pretty easy to install. You don't have to kind of center them because you just go right from the top edge across. So we're going to go and stick this down right at the top edge. Make sure you're lined up on the sides and then across the top. Okay, and so there's your first waterfall. And now from here, it's pretty simple and straightforward. You're just going to attach the waterfalls underneath. Make sure everything is lined up. Okay, that looks good. So just peel back one corner while you line everything up, just in case you need to move anything, like this, for example. I need to move it a little closer. Okay, it's 3. feel like I should have some background music for while I'm working. I'm not talking. Okay, 4. Oh, I just pulled the whole thing off. Anyway, 5. Line that all up. Number 6. Perfect. So there is our 6-page waterfall. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a pocket in the bottom across here like this, and then we're going to put just probably use that pocket to keep the pages closed. Okay, so it's going to be something like that when we're finished. So let's go ahead and add in the pocket. So grab your paper cutter again. Okay, so the pocket's going to measure 2 inches by 7 1/4. So let's go ahead and cut down the pocket. So 2 by 7 1/4. And then I want you to score along these 3 sides, 1, 2, 3, at 1/2 inch. So on the 2 short sides and the long side, and 1 long side, you're going to score it 1/2 inch so we can make our little pocket. And just do that. And once you're done, just burnish that down. Actually, before we do that, I want to cut off the corners so that we don't have too much bulk. So I'm cutting right through where the 2 kind of score lines meet, cutting off this sort of little triangle shape like that, and that will make our pocket have a little bit less bulk when we stick it down. So I'm just folding in the sides, and I'm going to give that a good burnish. Okay, all right, and then we can go ahead and put our score tape down. And this is going to sit right at the bottom of this waterfall page, and its purpose is to hold a card, so like a photo mat or what have you, that's going to keep the waterfall down flat. And I really love doing it this way because A, it's interactive, and B, I don't have to use magnets. So I have some tutorials where I do use magnets, and that's all good, but you don't always want to have to do that. So you're going to attach this to the very bottom. Make sure it's lined up at the bottom and on the side like that, okay? So what you should end up with is this little pocket sitting under your waterfall, and you're going to be able to, I mean, this one's a little small, but let's say stick your photo mats in there, and it's going to hold down these pockets and give you obviously also extra room for some pictures. Okay, so that finishes page 3. So now we can go on to the last page. Sorry, lots of bouncing around. So we're going to go on to page 4 over here, which is just a little flip out with some flaps. Okay, so for page 4, you're going to need to cut 3 pieces. One will be the actual page, and then 2 pieces, which are the top and bottom flaps. So let's cut our actual page first. So our page is going to measure 8 1/4 inches tall by 7 1/2 inches wide. So let's cut down our 8 1/4. Okay, and then by 7 1/2. Okay, and so this page is going to be 7 inches wide, because 6 3/4 inches wide, because I'm going to do a 3/4 inch spine, which you'll see in a second when we score. Okay, so now that you've cut that down to 7 1/2 by 8 1/4, I'm going to you to keep your 7 1/2 inch side along your scoreboard edge, and you're going to score this on the long side, okay, at 1/2 and 1 1/4 inches. So there we are at 1/2. And I'm just going to slide over to 1 1/4, which gives me a 3/4 inch spine on this piece. Okay, so I'm just going to just folding those down. I'm going to set that aside for a second, and I'm going to cut the flaps while I have this out. So you're going to cut 2 pieces that measure 6 1/4 by 5. Okay, so let's cut. Let's see. I want to make sure we put our paper the right way. So we're going to put it vertically like this and cut at 6 1/4. Okay, and then by 5, and we're going to need 2 of these. So there's one 6 1/4 by 5, and here's number 2. Okay, so these pages are going to be flaps that sit horizontally. Okay, so I want you to score along this long side. So you're going to put your 5-inch side against the edge of your scoreboard and just score these each at 1/2 inch. There's one. Just grab the other one, 1/2 inch. Okay, so there's everything is scored and cut. So I'm just going to get this out of the way real quick. And what we can do is attach the pages. So first I'm just going to burnish down my score marks, my scored edges here. Okay, so this will attach. Oh my goodness, I'm not having a good time today with this. Okay, so this will attach over here to the right of your waterfall page. Okay, so I'm going to finish the page and then we'll attach it. So I'm going to put in the flaps and then we'll go ahead and attach it. So all we're going to do, super easy, just burnish down your edges and grab your score tape. Okay, and your score tape will go along the outside of the fold. One, and 2. Okay, and this is simple. We're just going to peel back one corner, like so, and I'm just going to attach this to the top of the page. So line that up, and to the bottom. There we go. Okay, so these will flip open and we'll have lots of room for photos. You can add a pocket here optionally if you like. It depends on how many photos you have and what you want to do with that center. But for now, we're going to keep it closed like this. And later on when we're decorating, I'm going to make a little closure flap for here that also is interactive and will keep the little tabs closed. Okay, so I'm going to just grab the main album again. So here we are. So we have the right-hand side with our horizontal waterfalls, and that is where this will get attached. So let's go ahead and get our score tape on here. And I'm putting the score tape on the inside fold. Okay, so that's where your score tape goes, between the edge and your first score line. And we're just going to peel back a corner and line this up here with the album so that I can see the score line. Okay, there we go. Pull that out. Sometimes I just go over it with my little phone, whatever it's called. Okay, and that, my friends, is essentially the album finished. That's your album base. So it opens up into 4 sections, as you see here. We're going to have this fold in first, so you have your little 3/4 inch spine. Then it folds onto the second page and then overlaps on the top. And this is how it should look from the side. So you can see there's lots of room here for when you decorate and add in your photos. And so that's it for the album. You can pause here and start thinking about how you want to decorate, but I'll be right back and show you how I'm going to decorate mine. Hey guys, so here is the decorated album. I'm not 100% finished because there's a couple of design tips that I want to show you. So the first one, and before I do any more walkthrough, is to show you what I'm going to do on the spine. So I usually in this case, I did kind of a double layered spine. So you can see a plain version on this side, but on this side, I wanted to add some movement. So what I'm going to do, or what I have done is, and I don't know what paper you're using or how you're decorating, but I just want to show you this, and you can do it for any technique, sorry, any papers. So I've cut out my mats that I'm going to stick onto my spine. And then this kit came with these little stickers. So I matted them down onto just some cardstock from the kit and put some twine through them. And I want to hang these on the side like this, okay? And I want to also hold them down with this cute little pumpkin brad, and you can use any brads you have, but in this case I happen to have a little pumpkin brad, so I'm going to use that. So what we're going to do is, there's a couple ways you can do this. I want these all to be sort of a different lengths, so you can see that I've kind of cut the string in different pieces, but it's all going to kind of come through the top here like that. Now, you can try to wrap all that twine around the brad, but that is probably going to cause you a bit of a headache. So what we're going to do instead is punch a hole into our cardstock and then pull this twine through it and then cover it all up with the brad. Okay, so I'm only going to do that through this first piece. So I'm going to just kind of eyeball where I want these. I want them near the top. So I'm going to punch a hole in the middle about here. There we go. And now I can really simply just put all of those through like that. Okay, so that's sort of making a bit of dangly movement. I'm going to just grab a piece of double-sided tape here, just stick that down, and that will really secure, will secure these down. Okay, let me just see. Let me zoom in a bit on what I'm actually doing here so you can get a close-up. Okay, so I'm just sticking down this tape, this with double-sided tape. Okay, and now before I do anything else, I want to put my brad in this hole. So there's my brad, right? And we'll just open that up, and so that covers the hole that I punched. I'm not relying on the brad to hold all these strings down, right? And that creates a little bit, something like really cute little tassel sort of thingy on the side. So let me just zoom out a little. So there you have it. So I'm just going to put some more double-sided tape on the back of it. You can peel this one off too and use it for gluing, but let's just, I'm going to go and just cover that up. There we go. Oops. So just a cute way to add a little bit of movement to the outside of the album and some interest. Okay. Just hold those out of the way for a second while I stick this down. And I did quite a big trim, I guess you want to call it. Like, I didn't just do the 1/4 inch because I wanted to be able to see both of the patterns on here. So that's why I did that. So you'll notice even on the cover that I left quite a lot of matting on the bottom piece because I wanted to be able to see the entire different patterns. Okay, so then you can go ahead and just kind of stick that on the side here. And I'm going to stick this down with glue because that's how I've been doing the whole album. And I always use glue. This is my art glitter glue. It's my favorite. I've made so many albums. Nothing has ever fallen apart on me. So I'm not going to, I'm not worried about that or doubling up with tape. It's just not necessary. Okay. And there we go. So that finishes up. Oh guys, sorry about that. There's the spine. Let me hold this camera still. All right. So you've got this cute little dangles. You can do whatever you like. There's different patterns, different papers, so it depends on what you're using. But almost always in the kits you would get these little stickers. And honestly, excuse me, I don't always know what to do with all of them. So this is what I came up with for this one. All right. Sorry guys, let me just grab a sip of coffee. It's still early here, as you can probably tell by my voice. Okay, so I just want to show you one more design tip. Actually, a couple more things. So on the left side, I've covered everything up here. You can see I've decorated, I've added some stickers. This is one of the 4x6 sheets. I just matted it down onto a darker cardstock just to get it to stand out. And I added this little belly band folio thing just to get you more pictures. That fits really nicely into this pocket. So this was super easy. All I did was I got a strip of black cardstock and I made a little belly band, and I made it loose, okay, because I want to have space to add pictures in here, so it has to be pretty loose at the moment. So that just slides off. This is just a sticker that I matted and then fussy cut around. And then inside, this flips open and we have a couple of mats in here, another little place to put photos. So lots of photo places, and here you might be journaling. This is just a 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. Actually, it was a little longer, right? So this card, this side here is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. And those fit inside, and I just made this a little shorter because I wanted to kind of show the detail of what's inside. So that you can create one of those and give yourself extra space for where you have a pocket. On this side, I just used my plain cardstock, not plain cardstock, sorry, just this plain sort of piece of paper, and matted it out for different photos. So now on the inside, this is the center, so this is the page 2 that we worked on. So when we flip it open, you'll see a couple of things, and I'm going to show you how to do this next. So I don't really love using magnets. I try to avoid them where I can. So in this case, I use paper to keep folded sections closed. So this is a little flip up section for you to put photos in, but it stays closed because the bottom piece tucks right under this top piece. And all that is I've matted a piece of patterned paper down, and I've only stuck it sort of halfway on the top piece, so I have enough space. Let's see if you can see it from the side. Yep, there you go. For you to slide the bottom part in, and that stays shut. Same thing, I did the exact same thing on this side. Okay, so no magnets required, and I did the same thing here. So you can do it vertically or horizontally. So same thing, I stuck this card down. I didn't glue it all the way. I left enough space so when I close it, that tucks under and stays closed. Okay, then I simply just decorated the waterfall and left the other side blank for photos or journaling. Okay, and I like this sticker with the little hands sticking out. So I added that in there. Let's close this up. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to create this. If you don't already know, you can stay tuned. I loved this sheet. I think originally I was planning to use this for the front cover, but I thought it would just get lost. And I did a bit of a different thing with the front cover, which we'll look at in a second. So I use that here because it's just a very pretty sheet. So we open up again, and we are here in this page 3 section, and like I said, we were going to make some mats that would hold down this waterfall. So what I did here is I took the broom patterned paper, and of course if you're using a different kit, you'll use any pattern, and instead of covering each of these pages with a 4x6 sheet, I just cut the strips and then glued them down in order. So you can see that it just looks like the sheet of paper, right? So I just continued down to do that right on the pocket as well. And then it's here too. So lots of room for photos here, absolutely, on both sides of the page or journaling. And then the other thing, very simply, these are 3x4 cards and photo mats that I made, and they just sit right in this pocket and hold down the whole waterfall. So another little trick of how to keep down sort of flips and flaps without having to put magnets all over your album. Okay, page 4 then, I'm just going to move this over. So page 4 is just this little flip up. And here's another design tip for you if you don't already know. You can create a little pocket out of anything. This is a 3x4 card, and I just glued it down on these two sides, and now it becomes a little place for me to tuck photos into. So I put these mats in here for now. with this, and I made this one into kind of like a little booklet. So again, I'm focusing on creating more space for more photos. And then this is going to close the same way as what we just looked at. So this is the card I'm using to create the closure, and it's going to be pretty easy. I want it to sit, I want the top piece to tuck inside like that. So all I'm going to do is grab my glue, and I'm going to put glue just along the bottom, probably the bottom third of this card, like that. Okay, and I'm just going to place it where it seems to hold down enough, like that. And still, maybe you want to put a little bit lower, because you want to be able to get the top card out without bending this, right? So you don't want to put it too high. You want to put it high enough so that it holds it down. So let's just hang on to that for a second. Okay, and that's it. That's how you do that. And now that is tucked in there. And this, when you come to close it, you just tuck it in, and that will stay closed. And it looks pretty, and there's no magnets involved. Okay, and then, so we already looked at this. So here's sort of the whole thing opened up into its 4 sections, and then just simply folds closed like so. Okay, and just some patterned paper on the back. This is just a dark pattern that was in the kit. On the front cover, I decided to take, these were stickers that were on the sticker sheet, the cardstock sticker sheet that came in the kit. So I matted those on this spider paper and fussy cut around. And then I just kind of stuck them onto this twine. And I created these bows at the end kind of separately and then glued them on. So that just looks like it's hanging there on the side. I really thought that was adorable. And the broom, I just tied some twine around the broom and matted this "'Tis the Season to be Spooky." I matted that, and then it's popped up for a little bit of dimension. Okay, so that, guys, is the album. I hope that you enjoyed it. I really love making these. My content is, as always, free, so it would really make me feel great if you like this. Then if you could like and subscribe, and also hit the little bell so you get notifications of when I create new things. Holidays are coming, so I'm going to be creating a couple more things for fall and then moving into Christmas albums, but I have tons more videos if you want to check them out. As always, I appreciate your feedback and comments too, so I read everything and I try to respond to any questions. So if you have any questions too, I'm very happy to answer them. Anyway, guys, have an awesome day. Looks like a great day today here in Ontario, Canada. We have some pretty nice weather for October. I think some parts of Ontario had snow the other day, but not quite where I live, closer to the city, a little further south. But hope you guys have an awesome day, and I hope to see your comments and see you soon. Bye now.